Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, episode 220. I am Nick Murawski, and this is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find it absolutely everywhere. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, doing this live on Sunday nights. Really appreciate you jumping in the comments, but obviously the audio available everywhere on Twitter at Good Guys TV. If you still care about this team, we're here for you. Got a lot to get angry about, check in about since the last time we talked. Joining me, as always, my very good friend, Mr. Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Hey, buddy. It's interesting you mentioned if anybody still cares, because I have a sense that apathy is, if it hasn't set in, it will set in by the end of the month. And I look at it, obviously this last week of baseball has just been horrid, as Kansas City has turned into the new Metrodome, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is that too far-fetched? Is putting a goal of getting to 10 under by the end of the month, is that ludicrous? Is that even achievable? But I'm sure we're going to break it down and maybe find some positives to talk about and get people geared up for the stretch run.
Mired in mediocrity in the month of May, which wasn't supposed to be the case, Pat. We had a lot of folks, and to their credit, it made sense. Hey, April, really tough schedule for the White Sox. Not only were the Sox playing horrible baseball, had a bunch of injuries, and seemed to have no clue what was going on from a bullpen perspective, they were also playing tough opponents. So when you go 8-21 through April, it's like, all right, well, we're getting this easier part of our schedule. And you got to take advantage of it now, because when you look to June, it's a completely different story. Got some guys maybe back, but it's a revolving door, with the health thing. And right now the Sox are 6-7 in this easy month of May. Obviously 14-28 on the year, 9.5 games back in the AL Central. According just by winning percentage, Sox are the third worst team in all of baseball. Thank goodness for the Oakland Athletics that are having right now a historically bad season. I think it's minus 150 something run differential for the Oakland Athletics. Sox are minus 71. So in all of these numbers, bad pitching, hitting, bullpen, you kind of had to just to say, well, thank you, Oakland A's, for like keeping us out of the absolute cellar. But really bad, Pat. I struggle, man. You said apathy, and the amount of Sox fans that I've heard from, just doing lockdown and, some great messages and some diehard fans that are just beside themselves, fans for decades and decades, for all their lives. And it's just like, I don't have an answer. I don't know what's going on with this team. They lost me. They're just a tough team to watch. They're not likable. What are they doing right? I'm done with this organization. I mean, and we're not even at Memorial Day. Yeah. That in the year 2023, that's what really sits with me is, wow, it's gotten to that point.
Well, I think it's just, I mean, we thought we couldn't see anything worse than last year, and this is obviously a lot worse of a team than we saw last year. And when you look at it on paper, Nick, I mean, you think, okay, this guy should be pretty good. And we did it. We did preseason predictions, and they're just not. The individuals don't make up, a great baseball team for whatever reason, because the bright spot right now is Luis Robert. But before he went on this complete tear that he's on, we were questioning him. Who is this guy? Why is he swinging at everything that's out of the zone? Why is he swing all the time? Why isn't he be a little more patient? Now we're seeing the other side of it, and you're seeing wow, this is what a superstar could look like. And
but
think
do you
of
have
Tim
any faith,
Anderson.
Pat, that's like sustainable?
No,
he's not going to be able to sustain these ridiculous numbers that he's had in May.
No.
But after what we've seen from Luis Robert, we know that there's going to be a ridiculous cold stretch coming up very soon. And then he'll catch hot, he'll hit a heater for like 2-3 weeks, and then he'll be back, greatest baseball player in the world right now.
Yeah. I just can't, I really can't understand it though, Nick, because there's individual players on this team that you would look at and you go, I kind of like that guy. I think that guy could be a really good piece of this organization. I'm lost too. I'm as lost as you are, Nick, because today, a decent effort from Giolito after the first inning, I'd say. Pretty solid.
Sharp after that.
There were some bright spots offensively, just could never get a hit in a moment that meant anything. And I don't know. I'd like to think that there's an opportunity here with, Cleveland coming in, then Kansas City again, and then Cleveland, Detroit, and LA. But Detroit's playing pretty good baseball right now. Kansas City kicks our ass all the time, and so does Cleveland. So we may be in the quote unquote easier part of our schedule, but I look at teams that traditionally kick our ass.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that and again, we've said that, but these other teams are like, well, the White Sox are coming to town. Let's make hay.
Mm-hmm.
Since the last time we talked, the Sox went into Kansas City, which has been a difficult place for them to play in Kauffman Stadium. Pedro Grifol's old stomping ground. Thought that team would be a little bit more prepared, have a little bit more urgency, some fire against a scuffling Royals team that's going nowhere. But they're playing
Mm-hmm.
hard, and anytime they see a team like the White Sox, they're going after us. And we also didn't help ourselves at all. Just absolutely embarrassing. The finale was gross. Sox lost 3 of 4 in Kansas City. Pedro Grifol says, not pleased. We got outplayed, lacked urgency, which is so interesting to me because that was the thing that he kind of, that was going to be the calling card of the 2023
Mm-hmm.
White Sox. Urgency. We were going to play, we're going to play baseball like it mattered in April and May, doing everything right because we knew those games counted just as much as if you're chasing a division in September. That's different. That's going to be different than last year. We just haven't seen that kind of stuff. And then you go into Friday, Pat, to begin the Houston series. They're home, of course. And traditionally, Rick Hahn gets in front of the media before every single, fresh homestand. And he was not available. He did not make himself available. He did not talk to the media. I've tried to find reasons. I have not been able to find reasons of why he, didn't talk to the media. So my apologies if there was. Hopefully everything's okay with him and his family, and if there's anything serious. But if there wasn't anything serious, absolutely cowardice, gutless to just hide like that when you have come out and said things like "put it on me." I'm the one when players don't perform. Ultimately, I'm the one that put this organization together, put this roster together, so to speak. Even if he has nothing new to say, okay, because a lot of people are like, well, what do you want him to say? What do you want Rick Hahn to say? I want him to get in front of the media, answer questions, and if he's got something to say, like I'm not stepping down as GM, then say it. The silence is worse, in my opinion, Pat. So that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, he was the one that famously said at the beginning of the season, tune in, right? I
Sure.
tuned in. I didn't see him. I'm looking for him. I tuned in, Rick. I
Yeah.
didn't see you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is that a deeper? Is that a sign of something to come? Is there consequences to come because of the way this team has performed for Rick Hahn? I don't really know. It is interesting though because I get it. I wouldn't want to do it either, Nick. If you were in his shoes, would you want to do that? Would you want to?
It's your job.
That's what I'm getting
job.
to.
No, I wouldn't want to do it.
I get that you don't want to do it, but you're getting paid pretty handsomely to go up there and do the part of the job that is probably the most painstaking part of your job. Get in front of a group of 15, 20 people, whatever it is that are there to ask questions that you don't want to answer, that you have to dance around, that you have to come up with your lawyer speak to answer the questions. So answering questions without answering questions. But that's what you signed up for, friend. I don't know what else to tell you. It's your gig unless Jerry and Kenny told him no. Take a seat.
You can spin all kinds of different conspiracy theories on that, and that would be even uglier, if that happened. I can't even imagine, for them to quiet him. I mean, that's where the organizational rot that I've talked about, when you've got a back porch, when you've got a back, a deck in your backyard, and you could just tell, man, the wood is warped, it's rotting, but that means you're going to have to really dig down and find out what's going on. You got infestation, you've got water rot, you've got something that, needs to be maybe even partially repaired, or you've got to tear the whole thing down and you've got to rebuild. But what they're doing is they're just, maybe a little sanding here, some new stain or some new paint. But what's going on behind closed doors, that's how this can continue to get worse. When people ask, well, can it get any more worse? Sure. You can, the product on the field can continue to get worse. And whatever's going on in the clubhouse, whatever starts manifesting, in the front office more than it already has, and things aren't properly addressed, well, then you're just continuing to, kick this thing down the line into the end of this season and into whatever next to the following off season and beyond looks like. It's like, if it's not addressed, it will continue to eat away in Detroit and just almost just collapse on itself.
Yeah, and again, like I've said before, and we've talked about it before, this start is really going to define the next several years of this organization. And right now, it is it looks really bleak because, yeah, we'll probably end up with some sort of a decent draft pick, but if it's the same people picking this, the players and the same system developing said players, boy, I don't know, man. I really don't. I don't know how this is going to get any better unless you do it like you did last time. And we saw how well that's worked out to this point, right?
Yeah.
You can get guys in here from other organizations' systems and claim that they're yours, but they were never really your guys to begin with. And you put them together, and then you find out that, one, they don't have any drive. Doesn't seem like they have no discipline. And they don't have any, their baseball IQ is lacking big time, which is amazing to me. It just amazes me that guys still don't know really the how to cross the T's and dot the I's when playing the game, right? Overrunning bases again today. Yeah, like sliding over the bag. Like, what the frick are we doing, Tim?
There was a situation in Saturday's game, which they won, but there was a chopper hit back to Joe Kelly that, Vaughn came like charging at Joe Kelly in a way that it kind of looked like he was going to tackle him to field the ball. And Hanser really wasn't, I don't think he was at second, kind of in a wheel play, so to speak. But why is Vaughn going after that ball? Stay home. That's a Kelly ball. Yeah. He'll get it and he'll flip it to you. Now, Vaughn's new to first base this year, but he's not new to first base in general. And I know he's getting a lot of grief for, his offensive production and all this other stuff. And I wanted a hotter start out of him for sure. This is the guy that we drafted so high, and he's finally getting his opportunity. I think he's going to come along, and he's going to be somebody that, we're going to enjoy having on the South side. What does that really mean in terms of, team wins or where he helps his team go? I don't know, but individually, I think he's going to be all right. But what's happening is, since there's so much underperforming, everybody is sticking out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. Everybody is being put under a microscope because you have nowhere to hide. Yeah. Vaughn wasn't going to carry this team. That wasn't the plan. I thought it was more Jimenez, Robert, Moncada, Anderson, and absolutely Vaughn was going to find his spots. But when everybody is scuffling, it's like fingers get pointed. It's like when you have a rough go, which Vaughn had a rough series against Houston. Like, what are you doing, Vaughn? Like, why are we committed to you? And maybe we shouldn't be committed to you moving forward. And starting pitching, Sydney's got a great point. It's like, buddy, Lance Lynn, I'm sorry, friend, but I don't see how it gets better. I don't. He looked like he was his last start. Ooh, we're looking at Dallas Keuchel 2022, John Danks 2016, where you're kind of cooked, man. Sitting at a 7.51 ERA, worst I think in all in baseball in terms of starters.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't. I think he's got all the right words, and I think he knows what needs to be happening. But I don't know if he can do it.
Yeah.
I hope he can, but I don't know what we really are going to get from him moving forward. Options are slim, but his cement mixer cutter that just kind of spins in the middle of the zone on a 2-strike count, that's not going to work, man. That is not going to work at all. You know it. He knows it. I don't think he can do anything about it. Giolito, 3.86 ERA, leader in the clubhouse for us. Clevenger, 4.74. Cease now dropped to 4.86. Kopech. Oh man, I had such higher. I had so much higher for Michael Kopech, and he did too, as he said after Friday's start against the Astros, that he didn't anticipate this kind of start. His ERA 5.74. He looks like, I don't know what he was doing. He was barking at Dusty Baker on Friday. He's a guy that, man, he's got lively arm. He's got some pop. He just looks like a pitcher, doesn't he? He just looks like a pitcher. But I don't know if it's going on between the ears. I don't know if he just doesn't have the control. He can't contain himself. But I mean, he had 6 walks in that start. I mean, we're sitting here May 2023, and we're like, how is this team 14-28? How do I not know what we have out of Michael Kopech in May of 2023? I mean, that's what's troubling.
Yeah. There's a lot of things troubling Nick. It would be nice to, like you mentioned, what does this team do well? It'd be nice to say, well, we can lean on this part of our team, and maybe we can try and get some wins that way. It'll be ugly, but we can rely on hitting the ball at the ballpark consistently, or we can rely on the back end of our bullpen to cover our starting pitching because it's so dominant in the bullpen. We really don't have any area in which we're really good. And I just wonder if what Pedro thinks, like, is he regretting the first chance, the chance to be a manager? Is he regretting it? It's like, what did I get myself into? This organization at a closer look is worse than I thought it was.
We will be fundamentally sound. We will play with passion, pride for this uniform. This means something. We will respect the game, our fans, and earn their trust. We'll be prepared to control the strike zone on both sides of the ball. We will work hard and play winning baseball every night. We will definitely hold each other accountable. I truly see great things happening here. I'm really excited to be a part of it. Ding, ding, ding. I believe he was truly. I believe, like,
at that time, yes.
I think at the end, I'm really excited to be a part of it. I think he was. And look, he was ready to say absolutely anything. And I do believe that Sox PR or Masscom got in his ear ahead of time and said, these are the bullet points. These are the buzzwords. This is what you want to hit on because of last year. Try this, put it together. Try some of these things out. Try some of these things out.
He went with all of them. And they're like, oh,
you weren't
Pedro,
supposed to
we just
use
like
all
maybe
of
pepper a couple in there, like respect the logo on the front of the jersey.
Here's 15 things you might want to like try to work in that we had problems with last year. Try not to use all of them. Just,
because you might need them. You might need them in the second half of the season.
You might
use them all
now. He used them all in his introductory press conference. He just rattled them off in order. He didn't even turn it into a real speech. It was just he just yelled them all off like bullet points. So good on him. He finally became a manager. I think obviously everybody kind of understood that this necessarily wasn't going to be the guy that you'd hire to take a team that you thought was championship ready, that was going to erase 2022 and really make a push in 2023. That's not the guy. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. I don't mean to cut you off, but I've thought about this and I don't know if we've addressed it. If we could go back in time and just let Ricky continue to manage this ball club, do you think it would be where it is right now? I'm serious. I mean, because it felt like to me inside that clubhouse, the team at least gelled and there was a great chemistry amongst the group of guys, and they played and had fun. And Ricky's boys don't quit. I don't know that I'm
Yeah.
pining again for a Ricky Renteria to manage this ball club, but I'm curious if we weren't
Sure.
so knee
It's
jerk in that after that Oakland series loss, and bring in the old man, and was that the Billy Mumphrey's downfall?
Well, I do remember hearing some things about like Ricky maybe losing the clubhouse a little bit. Like maybe he was in over his head on some situations, and when the game got too big, he was a fish out of water. Like, whoa, I'm not used to these like playoff type moments, these intense moments. Because I've just kind of been a manager that helps build a team up, like fundamentally and chemistry, and then I pass it off to somebody else. I liked him though.
I did too.
I was interested to see what he would have been able to do in 2021 if they added a few things and got him a really competitive team.
Hmm.
And what a not just a COVID year with a solid team, but a whole season. Well, I mean, could he have done better than win the division? No, but what would have happened in the in the first round? That's an interesting, would he have had that team a little bit better prepared for the Astros? Maybe is that where we're getting at?
I don't know. I just wonder because you just mentioned that he his decision making in big games was at question, right? He had never really done it before. I just wonder if he had the opportunity to grow in those moments and have
So
something for himself and go, I've been there a little bit now. I maybe I would go back and I would do it differently. Now I'm back here again and I'm going to manage it a little bit differently because I've got that experience under my belt. I'm just curious because
yeah,
I
well,
don't
let's
know.
play this game. Let's play like, okay, so Jerry wasn't happy. Let's create this narrative of Jerry wasn't happy after 2020 and with Ricky and wants to win, thinks that the team is really ready to take off. And in Jerry's mind, Tony La Russa is the guy. This is the guy in my baseball archaic Rolodex that like I'm going to get this guy back. Maybe it's to rewrite a wrong, or maybe that's in Jerry's mind. This is who he still thinks is a guy that can get the Sox to the World Series. I don't know. Let's just assume maybe he hasn't been paying attention to some of the modern managers that have been having success throughout baseball. And he's just like, I know what I know. And Tony La Russa is a winner. And I'm going to see if I can get him back because that's who I think can absolutely take us to the promised land. A 3-time World Series manager in the Hall of Fame. Okay. Obviously, not the right decision. It turned out wrong and maybe set the organization back several years. When let's continue this narrative, I guess, and this may be hypothetical. When Hahn had the opportunity in the offseason of 2022 with a team that maybe very well could have still been, division champion, maybe with the right moves in the offseason, could have gone or tried for a league championship. Hahn decides to go with a guy that's never managed before in the big leagues. So who really made the bonehead move? Hahn or
Yeah.
or Reinsdorf?
Well, they both don't look real great at their jobs right now. Let's just put it that way. I guess Han is the worst end of it because
Han's the loser.
Han is the loser because at least Jerry could say, "Listen, I got a guy that's done it before. He was well past his prime.
At
I
least
thought
my
maybe he
guy
could
won
do
a
it."
division. At least
Yeah,
my
at
guy won a
least,
division title.
yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think about that. I just wonder if you would have been able to keep that together. I just felt like the team liked Ricky, and at the time, I wasn't like, okay, I can't believe they got rid of Ricky Renteria. It's like, okay, no big deal. It's Ricky Renteria. He's a punching bag for the next manager anyway. Who knows? Who knows the butterfly effect that has on an organization, changing it that way. I don't think Ricky Renteria, makes guys not pull obliques every other day, or hamstrings falling off the bone, or, those types of things. So who knows?
Yeah, there's just so many things that have been going on with this organization that it just seems not right. And I don't trust Hahn and Williams and Getz and anybody else making decisions in any other facet of the organization to do it right when they're going to have to sell off parts. And folks, if this continues this way, absolutely. There are the decisions are going to have to be made. And Lucas Giolito is going to be gone. And, really Cease is the big chip. I don't see the White Sox signing Cease down the road. And if the Sox really think that they can regather in 2024 and try to make a run, I don't know. I don't see it. Like, there's just a lot of question marks right now. Stuff that, again, I didn't think we'd have to be dealing with in mid-May of 2023.
Do you think Jerry wants to go through full on rebuild though? It was never his MO in the past, Nick. Neither was spending money on players. His MO is, and I hate to steal this from my friend Jonathan Hood, but he always says, the Sox are always good for the attraction. We'll get Jose Canseco as an attraction, or we'll get Kevin Youkilis as an attraction, or we'll get this guy as an attraction. Kevin Griffey Jr., he's an attraction. That's all we get is these guys well past their prime. So is that the stage we're moving into again? We're moving out of what we probably won't rebuild because we can't. And Jerry I don't think Jerry is aligned to doing that. And we'll never be in the pool of dumping in a lot of money for free agents. So now is it?
Well, they spend money on free
wanted?
agents, but it's the top tier generational talent. The argument for Jerry Reinsdorf is, well, look at the White Sox. They're top 10 in payroll. They spend money. It's how it's allocated. Yeah. And so then we're kind of splitting hairs. It's like, well, okay, if Jerry is, spending money, and we're going to defend Jerry because he's spending money. But my thing is, like, how are you spending your money? And if you're not seeing it being spent wisely by Hahn and Williams, why are they still employed then? It's the top tier. It's the big fish, not giving out a 9-figure contract. That's not going to guarantee you much, as the Mets are scuffling right now. And, obviously, there have been players in the past that, wow, this just didn't work out. We gave you a ton of money, or this team costs a lot of money, and it's just not hitting. But when you haven't done it, like, well, we just don't know if it would work in Chicago because we haven't seen it.
Speaking of high price guys, Andrew Benintendi is aware he can hit a home run, right?
Yeah, boy.
It's not against the rules for him. We haven't changed the rules enough.
I knew that he wasn't going to be your home run leader, but wow, to not have anything so far, and in Sox Park being such a homer friendly ballpark, to not just accidentally pull one down the line in right field. I don't mind Andrew Benintendi when you not pay attention to the money, which I know is difficult to do. He can play a solid left field. At least he gives me confidence in left field.
Yeah.
And the bar was very low for White Sox corner outfielders. And he seems to be able to keep the line moving. He'll get a base hit. He'll get a double. Again, not what you want out of your $75 million man. So unfortunately, when you factor in, the money and what you could have gotten maybe in a Michael Conforto or Joey Gallo or something like that, then you're saying, wow, okay, maybe that wasn't the right decision. So who made that decision? Was that Pedro Grifol saying, I know this guy, I had him in Kansas City, let's go after him? This would be a good piece. Grifol made a comment, and I read into it maybe a little bit a couple weeks ago, where in the post game, he kind of just said, essentially, you can only play the cards that, you have, the cards that you're dealt. And I looked at it as, maybe this isn't the type of roster he wanted. Yeah. Maybe this is a group of players that he kind of realized quickly, they're not going to fight for me. They're not going to buy into what I'm trying to do. they aren't willing to listen to the coaching staff and change their ways. They're stubborn, or they can't do it. I feel like there's some guys like Jake Berger, using eye pitch, and it's benefited him for sure at home. Why other guys aren't using it, I don't know. But I don't know. I looked at that as maybe if Grifol got a bunch of guys that he can work with that are his type of guys, and he can absolutely have his hands in the construction. But that means you're going to have to tear this thing down, right? Unless there's just a few guys that stick around, core guys. I don't know how that would work. If you think Grifol's your long-term guy. I think it was a 3-year deal for him.
Yeah, it's interesting, Nick. I told my I told my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, and they're big Cardinals fans, and the Cardinals obviously not off the start they wanted either. And I said to both of them, I said, the good news is there's a lot of baseball left. The bad news is there's a lot of baseball left.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how much I can handle of watching this team.
Well, they're just not they're not a likable team.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's what do they do well? In 2021, there was some scuffling at the beginning of the season. And again, this was after the 2020 year where we saw them get to the playoffs. It was exciting. Lost to the Oakland A's. We bring in Tony La Russa. We seem to have a pretty stacked lineup. And they were kind of floundering. There was some health issues. Some guys were hurt. The bats weren't clicking. But the starting pitching was on point.
Yeah.
That is what kept that team going until everybody started clicking. Then we ran away with things. I mean, that's not working. Bullpen's not working. Utility guys and injuries. And you got, Romy Gonzalez, Hanser Alberto, Elvis Andrus, Lenine Sosa, Carlos Perez, Marisnik, Hazley, like Marisnik and Hazley, like these guys that you would think about, that's gonna be what we're dealing with in 2023. Really?
Shouldn't be.
Those are people that we're going to be. And I know you've got to have utility guys and you've got to have bench guys, but I mean, only strongest is your weakest link. And there are a lot of weak links, unfortunately, because that's how the money was allocated. That's how the money was spent. There are these roster moves, and we're DFAing, thankfully, Jake Diekman, and Ruiz is gone. And, Alexander Colome, that second little stint, whatever that was, we got rid of him. And, to me, it's like Elvis Andrus, when you get healthy, I don't know what your value is with this team anymore. Mm-hmm. Thank you for making the celebratory home run jacket and hat. Thank you for sharing your story about the scuffling Texas Rangers years ago and how you were able to rally back from a tough year. Thank you for being positive and wanting to be on this team. But good sir, you're not the future. And, not that I'm overly impressed with Lenine Sosa, but I'm warming up to his defense, and he seems to hit in AAA. It's not translating at the big league level, but Sosa's more of our future than Andrus, in my mind.
At this point, Nick, I don't think you're not winning games because of Elvis Andrus anyway. So what's the point, right? He's not helping you in any way. So you might as well give the kid a shot give him extended at bats at the big league level, I guess. And if he can play strong defensively, I guess that's all you can ask for.
I was sitting at the game on Saturday, when it was the Eloy Jimenez Jaimon bobblehead, and not a bad crowd. I think maybe the weather, deterred a lot of people, and the fact that the White Sox are playing some absolutely horrible baseball. But a Saturday night game with Houston in town, I thought, I don't know. I thought it was going to be, just a little livelier. They won. Cease had a nice outing. But I don't know. It didn't give me the same juice as like a win might have been in a different time.
A little empty.
It felt just like a little, well, this is nice, but they need to win like 12 of 15. Yeah. They need to win like 15 of 18 to feel like they're right back in it. Those two back-to-back series, Minnesota and the Reds. Okay. Especially the way they ended that Reds series. They put up 17 runs,
Mm-hmm.
18 hits, and then you go into Kansas City and lose 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you lost me. I'm sorry. You absolutely lost me. And if that's the brand of baseball you're going to be playing, then why are we getting up for the letdown?
Like if you win 3 out of 4 against Kansas City and you come home and you take 1 against Houston, you could understand that playing the Houston Astros. Okay, we played a really good team, but we've been playing better baseball. We took care of business in Kansas City. We've won, 3 out of our last
You took care of business.
series.
You did what you
Right.
needed to do.
But that Kansas City series and playing in Kansas City will haunt me to this day. Don't ever ask me to go down to Kansas City and watch a game. I won't.
I'm not. I was thinking about it. I was like, Pat, maybe we should do that.
Never.
It's not a bad drive, but I'm not. I will not go to Kansas City.
No, thank you, sir.
Future.
So that's where you win 3 out of 4 in Kansas City. We're having a different conversation tonight because you go, okay, you split the first 2 against Houston, come back today, and you just couldn't battle back enough. You lost a tough game 4-3. Okay, let's take the day off tomorrow. Big series coming up against Cleveland. Let's continue to be right and play well against a division opponent. But that's the difference is, a couple games in Kansas City. And it's really a shame. I didn't feel like they could have went in there and won 4. Winning 4 against one team is really tough in somebody else's building.
Yeah.
But it's unexcusable, and it's really, I mean, guys, we're better than them. We should be better than them. Look at who you are versus who they are. They should not be beating us, and they do repeatedly.
It's an attitude thing. I mean, sure, it's performance, but I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about attitude of just having a chip on your shoulder, taking what's yours. I thought Grifol was going to have that team ramped up, ready to go. The way they lost it, that last game of the series, the walk-off squeeze. Okay, runners on the corners, I think 1 out for Kansas City, and they put a squeeze on, some slippery conditions. Sox misplayed it, no surprise. Royals walk it off. If the Sox were in that position, and we'll never know, but I'm just, creating hypothesizing here. I don't think the Sox do that. I think if they had runners on the corner, 1 out, they would swing away, and you'd have pop up and you'd have ground out. And I was like, good on Kansas City, not flashy, but they put a squeeze on, they put the pressure on the defense, and they got out of there. And they said, game over, we're moving on.
Yeah.
It's not pretty, but we got the job done.
And that's the book out on the White Sox. It's like they're not going to be able to defend their position for an entire game. So let's put the pressure on them any opportunity we have, and that's when we're going to score. Because that's just how it is. And they're going to fail when we have to make a big play defensively to save a game or to keep a game alive or whatever it is in a big moment. Inevitably, this team will fail. They've done it now for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, put the pressure on a White Sox team and they will crumble. And to, a comment about Kansas City's, some of their young stars. I like what Kansas City has. Boy, can you imagine having a Bobby Witt Jr. On the Chicago White Sox and that Pasquantino guy?
Oh my gosh, that Pasquantino. Whew, he's turned into what was that guy that used to play for Cleveland? He used to take Gronk or what was his name? We had a weird nickname.
Yeah.
Padunk or
Padunk. It can't be Padunk. I might know who you're talking about, but now you've got my brain going down some like cavemen as nicknames. I don't like
a really weird name. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out for the next show.
Padunk. Good Lord. I can't even think straight after you throw out a nickname like Padunk. That just sounds like
somebody listening right now. You've got to remember the guy that played for Cleveland. He was short-lived. It was like a firecracker. It was like he up in the air and burst, and then you never heard from him again.
Kansas City has always had guys like Moustakas and Merrifield and Billy Butler, right? Wasn't it Billy Butler that was on the Royals? They've had guys that just ate our lunch and did not apologize. Padunk.
Pronk?
Win. Padunk. I don't know what to say to people. Like people are turning this game off. They're turning the TV off. They're turning the team off. And there's very little interest in this team right now. And yeah, there's a lot of baseball left, but where is your hope lie, Pat? Like where do you say, okay, off day on Monday, they'll lick their wounds, and then okay, they're hosting the Guardians, and then I've got the schedule right here. They got Guardians, Royals, Guardians, Detroit, and then you end against the Angels. So you could say, well, man, if we go on a run here and we take care of business in these 3 series against the Central, I mean, that's what you're saying to yourself. That's how you get yourself excited. It's like, well, you know, but after May, Pat, I mean, I don't see a chance for this team if they continue to play that they're playing.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I think it's really about taking it in small chunks. Can you get to 10 under by the end of May? Can you get to 500 by June? Can you get to 500 by the end of July? And by then, you might be looking at, if you can get to 500 by the end of July, Nick, is it even conceivable that this team won't fire sale off everything? I don't know. And then you make a stretch run in August and September. That's the only way I can talk myself into it, is like after every month, are we 5 games closer to being 500? Does that make any kind of sense? Like
it does.
If I'm looking
sense,
at it, like I look at it like from I've been in sales for 17 years, and I go, I've been in bad starts to a year, and it's like, how are we gonna achieve this goal that we have? How are we gonna do it? And you've really got to look at it in little chunks. And Pedro's even talked about it. How do we win? How do we look at the next 5 games? The next 5. I'm looking at it as like, how do we kind of get something going in the positive way by the end of this month? Because we're not going to get it all back right now. We can't. It's impossible. So can we get to this point by the end of this month? Can we be playing good enough baseball to get to 500 by the end of June? Can you get to 500 by the end of July? I don't think that's asking a whole lot. You can't.
Yeah,
the only way to eat an elephant is by taking it one bite at a time.
You would have to black out anywhere where players see schedules in a clubhouse, in a locker room. Like, do not think beyond May. Just don't think of June, July, August, September. We are on May. We are going to win May. Okay. And really it's, win series.
Yeah.
But with this team, we're at a point where just win the game.
Yeah.
It's one game at a time. Start, because every start is different, because you've got a different pitcher on the mound, and that has been a problem. Offense has been terribly cold. This Luis Robert Jr., it's just amazing month of May right now after what was happening prior when he was benched on April 29th.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost been done in a vacuum.
Yeah.
The Sox haven't been able to take advantage of a hot Luis Robert Jr. It's that and that's been sad. Like, can you imagine if there were a couple other guys clicking and maybe 2 or 3 of our starters instead of just Giolito has been consistent?
Yeah.
It's a different situation. So yeah, I get your point. I get your rationale. It's smart. It's logical. And that's the only thing that they could do right now, is just say, okay, we've got Cleveland here. How can we win this series? How can we play fundamentally sound, just mindful, focused, sharp baseball? How can we be the best prepared for, this game in this series?
Yeah. And I'd be interested to ask Pedro, what are your goals by the end of this month? What are your goals by the end of June? Are they in alignment with that? Because I don't know. I just think you've got to have the team focused on very short-term goals. You achieve them, you feel really good about it, then you move on to the next short-term goal. I just don't know if it's the guys are looking at the big picture too much right now, and they really should. You mentioned 9.5 games back in this division, which with this many games to play it's not unrealistic that they could make up that ground and get back in this division. But right now, I wouldn't even worry about the division. Just worry about yourselves, worry about playing better baseball, and worry about winning the next game somehow, whatever way you have to do it.
Yeah, I look at 9.5 back, and I look at it in terms of perspective in the weakest division in all of baseball.
Yeah.
You're 9.5 back in the AL Central. And I think Ozzie said earlier this past week on The Score, well, the Sox are going to win the division, or the Sox can win the division, something to that effect. because of the weakest, they're the
Mhm.
weak, where they're in a weak division, which is a horrible like strategy. It's almost as bad as luck, accustomed levels, hope, and that the fact that like lightning won't strike twice for us kind of mentality. But that is what you kind of hang your hat on right now. Is
Yeah.
you don't really look back and, well, how many games back are we? It's, well, like how are we winning? Game, series, and then to your point, how can we win this month?
Yeah.
And then worry about just a little at a time. So, oh, my friend, um, tough stuff to talk about, but always a pleasure talking Sox with you, buddy.
Let's try and have a more upbeat show next week, and let's hope our White Sox help us have an upbeat show. Why don't we just run the table against Cleveland and Kansas City? What would we be thinking then? Our
I think that's
Dobbers will be
exciting. I
way
mean,
up.
that would be absolutely exciting. You think you're going to pick up a couple games, and that winning's contagious.
Yeah,
Right now it's just they can't get out of this funk.
I know.
I'm with you. It'd be nice. It's absolutely more enjoyable talking about all the good that's happening, the way they're playing, the way they're gelling, like how much fun they seem to be having, than some of the stuff that you've got right now with this club.
Yep. Well, here's hoping, buddy.
Yep. Folks, really appreciate you jumping on and joining us on our YouTube channel. Try to do this live on Sunday nights, usually at 8:30. Subscribe to the channel. You should get updates. Find the podcast absolutely everywhere on Twitter at Good Guys TB. And we've got a Facebook fan page. For Pat Hester, I'm Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.